Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So in this video, I want to show you guys how you can create a custom game mode for the Lyra Starter Game. And in this particular video, I'll show you step by step how to create a free-for-all game mode. That way you can learn the basics of setting up your own sort of game mode. Also, at the end of this video, I want to kind of show off my Battle Royale game mode that I'm working on. So make sure you guys are subscribed and stick around to the end of the video if you want to see that. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alright, so the very first thing that you want to do to create a new game mode is you want to go ahead and navigate down here to the Lyra Starter Game plugins folder. And again, if you do not see this plugins or engine folder, you want to go to the settings here and click the show engine content and show plugin content. Then we're going to go into shooter core content, and then over here in the experiences, these are essentially the game modes of the Lyra game. By default, you're going to get these two: control points game mode and elimination game mode. This third one I've created myself, but if you go ahead and open these up, basically if you're familiar with a game mode, it's essentially a class that defines sort of the rules for the game, as well as which character to spawn in and which classes to assign and whatnot. In the case of the Lyra game, this shooter game elimination game mode, you can see here once we open it up, there are quite a bit of things to go over. So the very first thing that you're going to see when you open this up is this default view. Now, to just explain how this works on a very simple level, is all of the systems within Lyra are very data orientated. So for example, we have our base character class right here, or base character pawn, and then we have a couple of these action sets, which are things like input, user interface like the HUD, and just standard components. Now down here in the actions, if you start to expand some of these different things, you're going to see some of the different components that make up this particular game mode. So for example, if you expand the actions, abilities list, you're going to see down here we have one granted ability set. So this is ability set underscore elimination. So if you browse to it in the content browser and open it up, you're going to see that we have basically these two different abilities added to our character. Now, abilities are a modular way of adding sort of different features or functions to your character. In this case, the elimination game mode adds a team deathmatch scoreboard widget and also the ability to respawn. So they've added those two abilities to the character. And then down here on the components, they have a couple different components. So let me go ahead and just unexpand these. So this is what you're going to see by default. So these are components, and these are basically added to your character. So these different components, if you expand one of these indexes here, you can see that you can add different components to your character. In this case, we have the very first component here is a scoring system. So this holds all the information for the player's score in this particular game mode. And you can see you have two different checkboxes if you want it to be a client component and a server component. So for the scoring, you want to have it on the server and client so that not only will the server have all of the scoring info, the player can also see the score points and also the scoreboard. Okay, we expand this next one. You're going to see this is a music manager component. It houses all the music that's played in the game. And you can see it's only a client component because the server does not need to listen to the music. So you can go through all of these different things. You see we have a bot spawner here. We also have a two team setup, and down here we have some team spawning rules. And then last but not least, we have pick random character, which picks between the female and male mannequin character. So you can see there are different components that you can add or remove from this particular elimination game mode. Now, as far as all of the scoring and actual gameplay logic, like the rules of the game, all of that is housed inside of this b_deathmatch scoring. So if we go to this component, and if you hit the browse icon here, double click that, This is basically just a game mode / game state that determines the score and also what to do when the players or when a team wins the game. So this is really good reference if you want to look into how they've set up the basic gameplay flow of the team deathmatch mode. And also there's a separate example for the control points game mode, which you can also check out. Now let's go ahead and make our own new game mode. And we're going to make it a free-for-all. So we're going to kind of make this from scratch here by just going and duplicating it. So if we go back to the experiences folder, what you want to do is either take what the control points or the elimination game mode, right click and duplicate that. And we can go ahead and rename this to B_shooter game_FFA for free-for-all. And you want to create these different modes inside of this folder because the way this project is set up is it's really picky that you create it in this folder. So now that we have created our free-for-all game mode, you can assign it to a level by going to the world settings window. If you go to window, world settings, you can see this world settings window, and under the default gameplay experience you can click this drop down and assign it the B_shooter game FFA. Okay, and if you do get an error when you assign this, make sure you either unassign it, file, save all, and then just reassign it. Now, you might get an error if you again create this or duplicate this or move this into a different folder other than the experiences folder. And like I said, it's just really picky where you place the actual game mode file. Okay, so now that we have our shooter game FFA, we can go ahead and double click and open this. And we can start customizing things in our game mode. So for example, if we go to our components list here, we can remove things that we don't want. So for example, we have here this bot spawner component. So this essentially handles whether or not to spawn the bots and all of the logic for actually spawning the bots. So we can go ahead and just delete that, and depending on if you want bots or if you don't want bots, it's up to you. And then we also have here this elimination scoreboard, and we want to create our own scoring system, and we don't want to use this scoring system since it'll be technically a free-for-all. So we can go ahead and make a new class of this. So if you open this up and look at the top, you're going to see this. There is a parent class, B_shooter game scoring base. If we find that and open that up, this is the base scoring blueprint. So this exact class is the base class, and what you can do is you can right click, create a child of that class, and then you can use this child for our FFA scoring blueprint. So now that we've created that, you can either move this into another folder. What I've done is I've created a test content folder and created a new FFA folder like that. And then we can just drag and drop this and move it in there. So the scoring blueprint doesn't have to be in any special place. You can create it in your own different folder. But this is where you would have all of the logic for how many points does it take to win, what to do when someone actually wins the game, and all that stuff. So off of the event begin play, or you could even right click and add a new event. Whenever a player dies, you could add, say, a variable that counts how many player deaths or whatnot and calculate the score that way. I'm not going to go too in depth about this in this particular video, but now that we have our scoring, we can go ahead and assign it here in our shooter game FFA experience. So down here we can type in FFA, and we should have our B_shooter game scoring base _FFA. So we can compile, save that. So we also have this music manager. I'm going to leave that as is because I believe the music manager also handles things like the hit sounds and hit effects when you shoot another player. Now the team spawning rules, I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. Pick a random character, we'll leave that as is. Then we have pick 2 teams. So if we expand this component and browse to this component in our content browser, and double click to open it. So you're going to see here, this is a Lyra team creation component. And the main thing in here that you can see right off the bat is we have 2 different teams, the red and the blue. And you probably already noticed this when you're playing the elimination or the control points. You have the 2 primary red and blue team. You could also add some of these other teams here. You can see we have a green and yellow team. So if you wanted to add more than 2 teams, you could click this plus icon. And then all you'd have to simply do is add a green team and set this to 3. In our case, we're not going to modify this 2 teams team creation component. We're going to go ahead and just duplicate it and then modify that. So we can go ahead and browse back to it in our content browser. Right click, duplicate this. We can name this to B_FFA teams. And then we can go ahead and move this into our FFA folder. Okay, and let's go ahead and double click and open up that. Now to add essentially a free-for-all mode, I found an easy way to do this is to just unassign the teams like this and add a couple more different teams. So you add 3, team 3, team 4, team 5, team 6, and basically every time someone joins the game, they're going to be assigned to one of these teams, and it's going to assign them from the top down to the bottom one by one. So what that means is player 1 joins a game, they're going to be assigned to team 1. Player 2 joins a game, they'll be assigned to team 2. Player 3 joins, assigned to team 3, all the way down until it gets to team 6. Then player number 7 will be joining team number 1. So if you want to make a free-for-all game mode, a really cheap and easy way of doing this is to just add a bunch of these different teams. That way each player is technically on a different team. Alright, this is a really easy way of doing it. And we're going to leave this team data asset as none. So now that we have that done for our teams, we can add that into this component inside our shooter game experience. So we can go ahead and search for our FFA teams and compile, save that. And last but not least, down here on the last index, we have a UI element under the widgets. You can see here this index 0 is a W_score widget elimination. If we browse to this real quick, you're going to see here, this is just a really simple scoreboard that is shown on the screen of the player. So technically, if you wanted to, you could go ahead and duplicate this and make your own custom score widget for this custom free-for-all game mode. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to delete this for now since we're not using that elimination score. Okay, so if we hit play now, we should be able to damage our other players, and then they can respawn. I forgot to tell you, if you want to play test this in the editor, like I said, you want to create a new level. And if you don't know how to create a new level, I've made a separate video on this. But again, in the world settings, you want to assign your shooter game FFA game mode / game experience. And then when you come up to the play button here, click the 3 dots. Play as 2 players in the net mode. You can play either as the clients, this will be like a dedicated server, or the listen server, that would be like if you were to host the game. Okay, so if we hit play, you can see that the player spawns at different locations here because of the different spawn points. And then we should be able to damage other teams because technically we're assigned to different teams. Okay, and now when I exit here, we also get this error and this widget team stat. I believe that is because we still have our scoreboard widget, so we can go ahead and remove that. Now the actual widget for that is held in this abilities list. So back in our shooter game _FFA, in this index here we have granted ability sets. And so we can see we have ability set underscore elimination. And if we browse to this and open this up, you can see we have these two abilities. Ability show the team deathmatch leaderboard. And since this is a free-for-all, we're going to have to create a new leaderboard widget. So we want to actually delete this. Now we don't want to do this inside this elimination ability set. Again, we can go ahead and duplicate this. And then the other ability here is the respawn. So if you want to have the characters respawn or not, what I've done for my Battle Royale mode is I've disabled this, or I've deleted this. That way the players aren't able to respawn, they only have one life. So back in here, we can either just delete this granted ability set, and instead of adding another ability set, we can do a little shortcut here by adding a granted ability, just a single ability. Under the ability type, you can see if we hit this drop down menu, there's a bunch of different abilities. Things like our emote, our grenade, jump, dash. And all those abilities are added separately and not through this particular game mode class. So they're granted in a different manner. Now what we wanted to add here is our respawn. So we can search up respawn and we can assign the auto respawn gameplay ability. Compile and save that, and we should be able to not pull up our team deathmatch scoreboard by pressing tab. So I'm pressing tab right now and it's not showing up. And that got rid of that error. And then we should still be able to also respawn. So let's go ahead and test that out. So if we kill this player real quick, then the other player is respawning. And that should be all good to go. You can also test this with more players if you want. If you wanted to, we have 4 players here. So if we play with more different players, you can see that we're able to damage other players since this is a free-for-all game mode. Now you might see some of these errors if you play with like 4 different players. And this is just because the widget nameplate means that the game is really not meant to be played on the same computer, 4 different clients on the same computer. So you don't really have to worry about that error since it's not going to happen once you go ahead and package the game. Alright, so now that we've created our very first free-for-all game mode, you can add it to your main menu widget. Here in the main menu, you click Play Lyra Starter Game. And under the experience here, we have our test map. This is a test map that I made in the previous video where I showed you guys how to make custom maps. Right now it has the control points game mode, but we can go ahead and change that by simply just going into our files here. So to change that or to add our custom game mode, you want to go to the shooter maps content, and under the system playlists, you can see we have this our test map data asset. So originally you'll have these 2 control point and team deathmatch data asset. What you can do is duplicate this. I've already done this, and I've added our test map. So you can see our test map. In this case, I want to change this to map FFA. And for the experience ID, we can change this to our shooter game FFA. You can add an icon, like take a screenshot of your level there and add an icon. Map title, we can name this to Free for All. In the map subtitle, we can change this to our test map. Okay, we can go ahead and save that. You can also adjust things like the loading screen, player counts, all that stuff. For now, we should be able to click play here. And if we go escape, quit game, to our main menu, here we have Play Lyra Starter Game. And then you can see we have our test map with our free-for-all game mode. So if we click on there, now we can go to our other client and quit game, Play Lyra, browse, and then we can find the free-for-all hosted session that this player is currently hosting. So right here, free-for-all on test map. Then you can see our player joins, and then we can go over to our other character here. And you can see we can damage the other player. and they can respawn. So again, this is just a really quick video to show you how you can, I wouldn't say easily, but probably methodically set up a new sort of game mode using these Lyra experience definition classes. Everything in Lyra is set up in this data-driven manner in which you can add and remove different components to build your game in a modular manner. Now again, it might not be the most beginner-friendly method, but it definitely is a decent method, at least if you're going to be scaling up your game and adding a lot of different game modes, maps, abilities, and all sorts of stuff like that. Alright, so the last thing I want to showcase in this video is my Battle Royale template. So I have this simple level here. It's the same level with a different game mode, my Battle Royale game mode. Like I said, I'm still working on it, and I'm going to create a custom map and all that stuff and make it look nice, but we can go ahead and play. So you can see we have this waiting for players. So I'm going to have like a lobby island where you wait for additional players to join. And then after about 15 seconds, or you can adjust the time like say 3 minutes. After waiting for players, you can see we're all teleported to this plane. Then we can press spacebar and our character ejects out of the plane, just like so. And then we can go ahead, shoot the other player. And what I've set up, since this is a Battle Royale mode, is the players can't respawn. So you can see once the player is eliminated, they can't do anything. They can just look around. And again, I'll have to add like a spectator mode. But yeah, that's all I have set up right now for this Battle Royale template. Like I said, I will be making a tutorial on it, so make sure you guys are subscribed for that video. That way you can stay up to date on all my future Lyra tutorials and Unreal Engine content. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.